And welcome, sports fans, to today's Roundtable. Glad you joined us here on this January Saturday for the Sports Roundtable here on YHC. A little later start today due to waiting to get some seeds from the Stoddard County Activity Association tournaments that'll be taking place in a couple weeks. We actually have those seeds. We're going to reveal those here in just a few moments for that Stoddard County Conference tournament taking place in Bloomfield in a couple weeks. So that's the reason why we're getting a little later start for today, but glad you joined us as it's a busy time of the year. We've turned the corner into 2019 now, and high school basketball well in full swing, and especially in conference play. Seeing quite a few conference games out there, and we cover a lot of the much of the conferences of Seymour Conference, Tri-County Conference, Boot Hill Conference, and the Stoddard County Conference. That's pretty much the area we're in and we're into. We had quite a few conference games this week, especially in the Stoddard County Conference, and we'll be getting in more into the Tri-County and Boot Hill conferences going forward as well. So exciting time of the year as we're right in the middle of the basketball season and getting into those big conference matchups that everyone loves, the big rivalries between the schools and those conferences, and we'll be having quite a few of those as we've already had this past week here on YHC. And we're going to touch on the games from last night. A lot of cancellations last night with the winter weather moving in. Quite a bit of sleet in the area that canceled a lot of games from last night. So not a whole lot to report on, but we'll give you some results over the last few days in boys and girls basketball. We're going to touch on highlights of the Bloomfield and Dexter game from earlier in the week, also the Bernie-Dexter game from last night that went down to the wire. And also we're going to take a look at those Stoddard County Activity Association tournament seeds for JV and varsity in a couple weeks in Bloomfield. Also, we'll take a look at some updated state rankings. It's been a while since we've taken a look at the state rankings for the state of Missouri. Got quite a few local teams in those. And also, we'll take a look at some headlines from the area and just some general headlines that are out there in the sports landscape for our area. And also, we'll take a look ahead at the NFL playoffs taking place this weekend, the divisional playoffs at the very end, and big weekend in NFL football. But let's take a look at the games that took place in the area last night in the area. And Dexter-Bernie, always a big matchup that we bring to you here on YHC. We did so once again last night down in Bernie. Always a great atmosphere in that gym between Dexter and Bernie. And Dexter pulled it out. 3-point victory for that Stoddard County Conference victory, 54-51. And boy, it came down to the end. Bernie got out to a really slow start. Dexter got out to a nice lead early on. And the third quarter, Bernie came out much more intense, really worked into that lead. And into the fourth quarter, it came down to one possession and just come up a bit short. But Dexter pulling out that road victory in the Stoddard County Conference last night. We've got highlights of that game, so let's take a look at that from last night in Bernie. Let's take a look. And starting off here early on, nice move underneath by Josh Ellenberg, getting that shot to go underneath, get the Bernie Mules started. And here we got a transition bucket here, nice finish at the rim. And here we see Seth Rogers stepping in for that left elbow jumper, knocking that one down. He had a nice night shooting last night. And three-pointer in the corner. I think it was Blake Hardy there in the corner knocking that one down. And here rebound put back up and in for the Bearcats. We see Rogers here working around. Nice dump down pass to Garrett Henson. That was there a lot for the night. Garrett Henson getting some buckets there. We see another one. Nice dish from Rogers again. We saw that quite a bit last night. And here three-pointer Andrew Ellinghouse knocking that one down on the left wing. Nice dump down. That's Garrett Henson once again getting the feed. And Slaving's knocking down that free throw line jumper there. And another transition bucket here for the Bearcats. There at the end of towards the end of the first half. Nice jumper here by Slaving's there, knocking that one down into the last part of the half. Hahn knocking that one down towards the end of the second quarter. Now into the second half. Bernie starts to make a run here. As we see, they're down 17 points at this point, Bernie is, and start to make a run. Slavings with a nice bucket there, bucket and the foul. And here we see a nice bucket underneath. Henson getting that one to go. And three-pointer on the left side. I think that was Andrew Ellinghouse knocking that one down. And a nice drive and finish there for the Mules here. We see a nice three-pointer, top of the key. This is where Bernie really starts to make its run towards the end of the third quarter. They made a great run here to finish off the third quarter. A couple baskets right at the end of the third quarter, bucket and the foul there into the fourth. We see it now into single digits, the Dexter lead, and a three-pointer there by Bernie. Really starting to cut into that lead here into the fourth quarter. Henson with another tough bucket underneath. Three-pointer on the right side, up and in. And here's a three-pointer, another one. As Bernie really starting to cut into this lead. A 6-point lead with under 3 to go. Another three-pointer, cuts it to 3. And here Dexter made a nice play, another dish and bucket and the foul. As Henson got another one there. And we're seeing here late run. Bernie making another bucket, but coming down to the very end, Bernie puts up a 3. It's blocked, but it was the shot was just late, just a hair late from that buzzer, but blocked away. I think that was by Henson there on that final attempt. But Bernie just had a shot there, and just come up a bit short. And Dexter holding off Bernie for that Stoddard County Conference victory, and a great one last night. It always is. Dexter got up big, 17-point lead they pushed out to early in the first half, and you knew Bernie probably had a run in them in that second half, and they certainly made a run there towards the end of that third quarter. Got a few buckets to make that a single-digit game going into the fourth, and just kept cutting into that lead and just ran out of time. And Dexter held off Bernie for that conference victory, and a little surprised of Bernie coming out just a little off, especially shooting. They just weren't hitting the outside shot much like they were in the second half, and fell down to Dexter. Dexter came out with a great intensity and really attacked the paint. Seth Rogers, Gargis Hahn really attacked the middle part of that defense of the Bernie Mules. Really attracted a lot of that backside help and a lot of dump down passes to Henson, as we saw in those highlights. Henson really had his way early on at the basket for the Bearcats, pushed out that early lead, and Bernie fought back, made it a great finish. Certainly made it a great finish, as we certainly expect out of a Dexter-Bernie game, but Dexter held off the Mules in a close one, as it typically always is between these two teams, 54-51. And take a look at the other games from last night. Zenith Hornersville getting a non-conference victory over Risco there at Zenith. 53-52, close one coming down to the very end. Zenith holds off Risco. Risco having a tough patch here of late, suffering a few losses. They suffered a loss to Clarkton, Tri-County Conference game earlier this week to Clarkton. So having a tough patch here in January. Nathan Burnett's been out the last number of games due to a leg injury. So, big time guard for the Risco Tigers. Certainly a still talented team in Risco. They're going to be able to win games without him, but Nathan Burnett, one of the top guards in the area, certainly in the Tri-County Conference, it's going to just be a little tougher, and they've had some close games and coming out on the losing end out of a couple of those, but Risco falls short to St. Hornersville by 1 point last night. And also Bloomfield over Malden, 55-45. Bloomfield Wildcats getting a victory over the Green Wave last night. Also, we have Southland over North Pemiscot in the Tri-County Conference, big, 64-23. The Southland Rebels getting victory over the Mustangs. And also Portageville over South Pemiscot, 65-59. Big Boot Hill Conference matchup there, and that's one competitive conference this year. And the Boot Hill, Hayti defeated South Pemiscot by, I think, only about 4 or 5 points earlier in the week. And Portageville gets a victory over South Pemiscot by 6, 65-59. And South Pemiscot's going to be right there in the mix. Portageville right there in the mix. And they've got Hayti and Crothersville. It's going to be certainly a competitive conference here in January. Look forward to some very competitive conference games in that Boot Hill Conference this month. And certainly for that Boot Hill Conference tournament down in Zenith later on this month into February. So it'll be an interesting conference once again this year. East Prairie over Crothersville, 77-66. East Prairie getting some impressive victories. We'll talk more about them in our next segment, but a nice victory over Crothersville last night for East Prairie. And seeing Hornersville going back to Thursday. That was all the Friday games we had to report on from last night. But going back to Thursday, Zenith Hornersville getting a victory over Gideon, 53-49. Zenith Hornersville getting a nice couple of victories over Tri-County foes or Tri-County teams, and Gideon and Risco this week. Advance over Richland in the Stoddard County Conference, 87-81. That's the team to look out for. Advance is looking good. Had a close loss to Bernie last week, 85-80. Put up 87 points on the Richland Rebels. A much improved Richland Rebels team this year. But Advance right there in the mix in the Stoddard County Conference once again this year. Charleston over New Madrid County Central going back to earlier this week. I think that was back to Tuesday night. 75-56 Charleston over New Madrid County Central. And Charleston, another team that's looking good here in January. A lot better than they have at the start of the year for sure. So the Blue Jays looking a lot better start here in January. Dexter over Neelyville in girls basketball. Big matchup there, a rematch of that Lady Royals Classic and that tournament championship. Dexter over Neelyville, 56-53. Dexter defeating Neelyville in a very close game last night in girls action. Two of the top teams in Southeast Missouri, in Dexter and Neelyville. And other girls basketball, Charleston over Kennett, 61-56. And also in boys wrestling from last night, Dexter over Kennett in a match, 51-24. And reverting back to that Dexter-Bernie game we broadcast last night, you can watch that replay right here on YHC today. 12 o'clock, make it more like 12:45, closer to 1 here with a late start with the roundtable. Tune in for that about 12:45 to 1 o'clock. Dexter and Bernie right here on Channel 21. And watch that also tonight at 6:30, Saturday at 6:30, and then Sunday afternoon at 3. And you can watch anytime on demand on our website at yhctv.com and even our YouTube or Facebook pages. Watch that anytime online on yhctv.com. And we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be back with those Stoddard County Activity Association seeds for that tournament coming up later this month in a couple weeks in Bloomfield. We'll have those seeds and some other headlines from the area to recap this week. So we're going to take a break and be right back.
Our people enjoy visiting with our customers. At Glensane, we realize that buying a vehicle is a very big purchase. Our people enjoy visiting with our customers and working every deal to save them money. Customers see these special prices on the internet, but then must have a trade-in, must finance X amount of dollars. At Glensane, we'll show you exactly what price you're going to be getting. We'll show you the Glensane price is better and you'll enjoy your visit. That's what we do at all 4 Glensane locations. Best price, best service. Glensane, and God bless our troops.
At Ag Explore, we're farmers too. So we know that farming's never been a 9-to-5 job. Just like the farmer, we work overtime to bring you whatever it takes. Solutions like InZone help you retain 47% more nitrogen with an overall average increase of 12 bushels per acre. Imagine what InZone can do for you. Ag Explore.
Apologize, no sound there, but welcome back in. We're going to take a look at the Stoddard County Activity Association tournament seeds for the JV and varsity tournaments. Take a look at the JV tournament first. Wrong graphic there. Take a look here. All right, here we go. The Stoddard County Activity Association JV Tournament, Dexter with the #1 seed and a first round bye. They will take on the winner of 4th seeded Woodland and 5th seeded Puxico in the first round. And Bernie and Bloomfield have first round byes. They are in the semifinal round. So 2nd seeded Bernie versus 3rd seeded Bloomfield in that semifinal. The winner of that will advance on to the championship to take on the winner of Dexter and either Woodland and Puxico. So only 5 teams in the Stoddard County JV tournament. Dexter with a first round bye. Also Bernie and Bloomfield with first round byes. So The winner of Bernie and Bloomfield will advance on to the championship. Woodland and Puxico will play to take on Dexter in that semifinal round. So that's a look at the Stoddard County JV tournament to take place in Bloomfield. Gets underway on January 21st, so we got a couple of weeks until that gets started. So look forward to that Stoddard County JV tournament. Those are the seeds for that tournament coming up starting on January 21st in Bloomfield. And taking a look at the varsity tournament. Varsity tournament for the Stoddard County Conference. No surprise, especially after last night. Pretty much whoever won that Dexter-Bernie matchup last night was going to come away with a top seed. Dexter wins. They secure the top seed. They'll take on 8th seeded Bell City in the first round. And the neighboring bracket, 4th seeded Richland versus 5th seeded Woodland. Then 2nd seeded Bernie versus 7th seeded Puxico. And the other first round matchup, 3rd seeded Advance versus 6th seeded Bloomfield. That is your tournament seeds and the bracket for the Stoddard County Varsity Tournament. And really no surprise there. Dexter and Bernie really separate themselves probably at the top of that conference. But Advance has really looked good here. In the last week, they took Bernie to pretty much the last few possessions. Bernie defeated Advance by 5. Advance got a nice victory over Richland last night. So Advance, team that really graduated quite a bit last year, come back with a very competitive team once again this year. So got to look out for the Advance Hornets to make it certainly interesting in this conference tournament this year. But wouldn't be surprised if we saw another Dexter-Bernie final. Last year, Bernie won on the road in Dexter. The tournament was in Dexter the last year, and Dexter falling just a bit short, coming up second place to Bernie's first place last year. And Dexter got that win last night, so they secured the number 1 seed. And wouldn't be surprised again if we saw Bernie and Dexter in that final once again. But that potential semifinal game, Bernie and Advance, could be a close one once again between those two. Could certainly be an interesting matchup there. And Richland has a 4 seed. It's good to see Richland more competitive this year. They've had a rough handful of years going back the last 4 or 5 years. And now at the top half of the conference, it's good to see Richland getting to that 4 seed this season. So there you go. There's a look at the conference tournament for Stoddard County. And that tournament gets underway the 21st in Bloomfield, just as the JV tournament does. And that will wrap up on the 25th there in Bloomfield. And we carry the final night of that Stoddard County Conference tournament. And that'll be starting at 4 o'clock with the JV third place, and followed by the varsity third place, and then the the JV third place, and then the varsity finals. 4 games starting at 4 o'clock, starting the last game starting around 8:30, and all those games at Bloomfield starting the 21st going through the 25th in Bloomfield. So we'll be looking for that Stoddard County Conference tournament once again, and we only carry the final night. We don't carry the whole tournament. We're there for the final 4 games on that final night for January 25th. So always a big tournament, especially on the final night. We'll be looking forward to that right here on YHC. And take a look at some headlines from the area. Taking a look, just to take a look at some of the week's headlines. And Dexter edging Bernie 54-51 for that victory last night, and that was a key Stoddard County tournament victory, as I said, going into that seed meeting this morning. That was pretty much going to determine the top seed in the conference, and could even dictate who wins the regular season championship as well. So Dexter now in front of that regular season standing for the regular season championship. So that probably determined that more so than the seeds. We could very well see Dexter and Bernie in that championship game, and the 1-2 seed might not make that great a difference. The only difference is you take on Advance rather than likely a Richland in that semifinal, and Advance has really looked good here in the last couple of weeks. So that was pretty much probably what it come down to, who you're going to face in that semifinal round. But could certainly make an impact on that regular season championship, as those two teams seem to separate themselves from the rest of the conference so far. And Charleston, talking about Charleston Blue Jays. They are surging here in January. They got a nice victory over New Madrid County Central in the CMO Conference earlier this week, 75-56. And I say they're surging just because they're playing so much better. They really opened up the year, didn't really look all that impressive. But they really have looked really good here in this month of January. They took Sykeston down to the end, and they led Sykeston at half, believe it or not. They're in Charleston earlier, I think that was last week. Last Friday night, I believe that was, and took Sykeston to the very end, led at half against Sykeston at Charleston, and just come up a bit short. Sykeston ended up winning that game by 10 over Charleston, but Charleston was competitive throughout. Bogan and Kimball are really leading the way for Charleston, playing at a high level, and we're seeing a much more competitive Charleston team here in January, and they've got the win over New Madrid and the close loss to Sykeston to show for it. So look out for these Charleston Blue Jays going forward. They'll be hosting their own district tournament this year in Class 3 District 1, which they've fared very well in that Class 3 District 1 over the last few years. And this year, having it on their home court just makes it even more advantageous for the Blue Jays, and a tough place to play as well. That atmosphere there in Charleston, that court, it's just, great atmosphere. Everything's there close to the court, and big attendance. Really makes for a great atmosphere. So look out for the Blue Jays going forward. They're looking really good here in January. And also East Prairie. Mentioned East Prairie in those scores early on, and they've been very impressive in wins over Scott County Central and Crothersville this week. Scott County Central, that's a conference win. They're in the Scott Mississippi Conference for East Prairie. And Crothersville last night. Crothersville team that's not probably as good as we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years out of Crothersville, but competitive team once again this year. And East Prairie getting off to a nice start here in January with victories over Scott County Central and Crothersville. East Prairie is going to be a player in that Scott Mississippi Conference Tournament and potentially for that championship. So the East Prairie Eagles looking good here this week. And the Clarkton Reindeer making some noise here in January. Can't forget about the Reindeer in the Tri-County Conference. They get big wins this week in the conference over Risco. They got a conference victory over Risco back on Tuesday night, and one over Gideon. Got a conference victory over Gideon last night. So look out for these Reindeer. They're leading the way in the conference, in the Tri-County Conference, and really taking advantage of that Nathan Burnett injury to Risco. Got a win over Risco and Gideon last night. So Clarkton leading the way for that, certainly the regular season championship in the Tri-County Conference, but also the #1 seed for that conference tournament in the Tri-County Conference later on this month, or maybe at the beginning of February. So Clarkton Reindeer making some noise here in January with some nice play and some key conference victories over Risco and Gideon. And Risco has been running away with that conference the last couple of years. Last 2 years, and certainly looked that way early on this year, but a little setback for the Tigers, and Clarkton is capitalizing and playing well here in January. So look out for the Reindeer going forward. We'll actually have the Reindeer on our schedule. We might get to that here in a moment. We'll have them once again with Zenith Hornersville. Zenith Hornersville on our broadcast schedule. They'll host Zenith Hornersville in the next week or two, so we'll be looking forward to that. Also, Risco and Gideon, we'll have them in a matchup at Gideon here in the next week, couple weeks as well. So there you go. Clarkton looking good in the Tri-County Conference this month. And let's take a look at some state rankings for the state of Missouri. It's been a couple weeks since we updated those, and these are the state rankings heading into this week. And the Dora Bobcats just out west, looking really good at 12-1 coming into this week. Those records don't reflect this week's games, but 12-1 coming into this week. The Dora Bobcats out west. Also South Iron, the South Iron Panthers out west at 11-2. And worth noting, last Saturday, Kennett secured a victory over at Three Rivers against South Iron. Nice victory for the Kennett Indians over that state-ranked South Iron team in Class 1 last weekend. Also at number 3, Winston. Number 4, the Eminence Red Wings, who bring back, might be the best team in the state in Class 1. They have suffered some losses. We don't really keep up with Eminence out there, but they got some losses. I bet they're probably playing some quite good teams, some bigger class schools. The Red Wings suffering a couple losses there, 7-4 coming into this week, but don't let the record fool you. Eminence is right there at the top of the state in Class 1 and defending state champions and will likely be favorites to repeat once again. So look out for Eminence once again this year. At number 5, Mound City at 11, undefeated 11-0. Number 6, Lakeland at 10-1 coming into this week. 7, St. Elizabeth. 8, Jefferson. 9, Medville. And number 10, Halfway, rounding out in Class 1 for the boys. And in Class 2, Milan at number 1 and undefeated 12-0 coming into this week. 2, East Buchanan. 3, Greenwood. 4, Mansfield. At number 5, our local Orant Eagles up north at 11-1 coming into this week. They're number 5. Number 6, Hartville at 9-3. At number 7, Hayti at 9-4. Most of those losses coming in December when the football team was out and eventually winning the state championship in Class 1. They started out preseason number 1, moved down to number 7 due to those losses, but Hayti is certainly going to be there in the mix and probably deserve to be there towards the top of that poll, but securing those losses due to the football team still in football season, winning that state championship, suffering a few losses there. At number 8, Crane. 9, Adrian. And 10, Verona. So Orant and Hayti there in the mix in Class 2 in the state poll. And in Class 3, Vashon at number 1 at 10-2 coming into the week. Number 2, Springfield Catholic. 3, Southern Boone. 4, Trinity Catholic. 5, Father Tolton. 6, Monroe City. 7, Licking. 8, Blair Oaks. 9, Palmyra. And 10, Hallsville. Rounding out the top 10 in Class 3. We don't have any local teams there in the mix, but just might have there by the end of the year in Class 3. In Class 4, the Sikeston Bulldogs on top of the undefeated record at 10-0, and the Sikeston Bulldogs look amazing. They have been rolling through their schedule. They had a dominant victory over Park Hills by about 40 to 50 points earlier this week, and they've just been rolling through the schedule with the exception of Charleston, which is a big rivalry. Last Friday night, they've been looking really good and setting up top there at number 1, and no surprise, Cape Central, not only a district foe, but a conference foe in the SEMO Conference at number 2 at 12-1. Their only loss coming to Sikeston back in that SEMO Conference tournament there in early December. So there you go, Sikeston, Cape Central, potentially meeting up in the SEMO Conference. That game might very well seem that regular season matchup here in the next few weeks might dictate the SEMO Conference regular season championship. Not only that, but the eventually meeting up in the district championship in Class 4 District 1, which is in Cape Central this year. It's at Cape this year, so just keep that in mind. Sikeston doesn't fare as well there in Cape as they certainly do at home at Sikeston, and that could play a role there with home court advantage in that district championship with Sikeston and Cape Central. So it's amazing. We could have kind of on paper a state championship here in early February in the district tournament in Cape Central between those two. So look out for that one in early February. And also number 3, Grandview. 4, Farmington up north. 5, Raytown south. 6, Warrensburg. 7, Rolla. 8, Sullivan. 9, Rogersville. And 10, Union. Rounding out the Class 4 poll. And in Class 5, Webster Groves, Rockhurst, McClure North, CBC, Christian Brothers College, Rockbridge, Desmet, Fort Zumwalt South, Chaminade, Melville, and Francis Howell rounding out the teams in Class 5. And on the girls' side, we do have some local teams there in the mix in the state rankings for the girls. In Class 3 for girls in Missouri, Saxon Lutheran at number 5 in Class 3. And in Class 4, the Dexter Lady Bearcats at number 6 in Class 4. And in Class 5, the Jackson Lady Indians at number 8, I believe it is, in Class 5. Jackson at number 8 in Class 5. So we do have some girls teams there in the mix for the state rankings for Missouri as well. So quite a few teams in the boys and girls ranks in the state rankings this week, and that's pretty much always the case. And we'll be looking forward to seeing perhaps some more teams in those rankings by the end of the year. So it's been a fun year so far. A lot of good teams in the mix. And it'll be certainly interesting heading into the conference tournaments here over the next, here towards the end of the month, into the beginning of February, and then just about a week or two later into district tournament time. So it's going to be fun the rest of the way, as we'll see probably some of the most rivalrous games, the big rivalry games from here on out into tournament and district tournament play here for high school basketball. And we got another highlight to take a look at. Let's take a look at a highlight we did from Tuesday night. We had another Stoddard County Conference matchup between the Bloomfield Wildcats and the Dexter Bearcats at the Bearcat Event Center Tuesday night, where Dexter took the victory in that Stoddard County Conference matchup. Let's go ahead and take a look at that highlight from Tuesday night.
Bloomfield Tournament and into the first year here in 19.
And as we see here, early bucket for Bloomfield here. Nice dump down bucket to Garrett Henson, and he's really mixed it up here for the Bearcats this week, having fine games. Seth Rogers with a nice drive and score there. And here, nice bucket underneath for Henson once again. And here we see Carson Blair on the way to the bucket, getting that score for the Wildcats. Here, Travis McCullough on the drive, getting a finish for Bloomfield there. And see your nice drive and finish for Henson on the dribble there. And Braxton Foster hitting that baseline jumper for the Bearcats. And here we see Travis McCullough stepping into a three, knocking that one down. And McCullough once again digging in off the glass for the Wildcats. And Bloomfield really came out hot in the first quarter. And nice drive there and finish. A couple finishes here for the Bearcats. And it was close, especially that first quarter. High scoring first quarter for both teams. And Nate Gargis knocking that one down for the Bearcats. Three-pointer, Andrew Ellinghouse knocking that one down at the top of the key. And here another three-pointer on the left side, up and in towards the end of the first half. And nice drive to the bucket there and the finish. And three-pointer, Travis McCullough knocking that one down. And another three-pointer for the Bearcats, Nate Gargis knocking that one down at the top of the key. And towards the end of the third quarter here, tough bucket underneath for Henson, gets it to go. And nice little pull-up jumper there, gets it to go for the Bearcats. And three-point shot on the left side, up and in to close out the third quarter into the fourth. Nice bucket there in the paint for Dexter. And another dump down here, and a nice basket underneath. Easy basket for the Bearcats. Jumper along the right side, up and in. This is where the Bearcats really start to separate. Carson Blair knocking down a three-pointer. He's going to knock down another one here on the right side to pull into that lead. But Dexter securing that dominant victory over Bloomfield. I think that was, can't remember the score of that one, but it was double digits there for Dexter over Bloomfield. So Stoddard County Conference matchup we brought to you Tuesday night from the Bearcat Events Center. So there you go. A couple of Stoddard County games this week, and it's going to be competitive towards the end of the year, especially into that tournament in Bloomfield. So there you go. We're going to take another break and be back with, we're going to take a break, come back with our broadcast schedule, the games we got coming up over the next few weeks here on YHC that you can look forward to. Also going to take a look ahead at the NFL matchups in the divisional round this weekend. Big weekend in NFL football. And we're going to take a break and be back with that coming up.
Over 100 years. That's how long Farm Credit has been there for our friends in the agricultural community. Whether your farm needs an operating line of credit, equipment or farm real estate financing, or crop insurance, Farm Credit has the tools you need to help your operation grow and be successful. We are dedicated to make the extra effort to understand your operation and your needs. Agriculture and Farm Credit is here to stay. Stop by or give us a call and let us help you find the best solutions for your operation's success.
If you or your loved one has disabilities that cause you to need a little help, Boot Hill Area Independent Living Services can provide the assistance you need. At Bales, we want you to have control of your life and assist you in thriving in an independent lifestyle. The Consumer Directed Services Program allows you, the consumer, to choose who assists you in conducting your daily activities. Bales serves Stoddard, Dunklin, New Madrid, and Pemiscot counties. Call or visit our office in Kennett to see how we can help you maintain your independence.
At Baldwin Ford Lincoln Toyota, we are an exclusive dealer with lifetime warranties on over 800 new and pre-owned vehicles.
Did you know all new Toyotas come with a lifetime warranty?
And all new Fords come with a lifetime warranty.
And most pre-owned come with a lifetime warranty. Baldwin Ford Lincoln Toyota, where we all win. With Baldwin.
And welcome back, and now let's take a look at some games that we got coming up here on YHC going forward. And starting with this next week, we got Monday night broadcast, Bloomfield at Holcomb in a non-conference matchup in Holcomb. So look forward to that one live here on YHC Monday night, 7:30 start between Bloomfield and Holcomb. Should be a competitive game there between those two. Also, Tuesday night, we got Bloomfield once again, back-to-back nights. Bloomfield at Bernie in a Stoddard County Conference matchup there Tuesday night, and that'll once again be at a 7:30 start there in Bernie. We'll be back in Bernie Tuesday night for that Stoddard County Conference matchup. Then skip ahead to next Friday night. We've got a SEMO Conference matchup, the Dexter Bearcats and the New Madrid County Central Eagles. Look forward to that one next Friday night. Should be a good one. It typically is between those two. Dexter at New Madrid County Central next Friday night, the 18th. Then Monday, the 21st, the Stoddard County Conference Tournament, the Stoddard County Activity Association Tournament for JV and varsity gets underway the 21st. But that'll be starting in Bloomfield, going Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday and Friday nights. But the Tuesday, the 22nd, will be in Gideon for Risco at Gideon in that Tri-County Conference matchup. They're in Gideon on the 22nd on Tuesday. Then the Thursday night, we'll have on the 24th, St. Hornersville at Clarkton. Non-conference matchup there, but should be a good one between St. Hornersville and Clarkton there on Thursday, the 24th. And the 25th, 2 weeks from last night, on that Friday night, January 25th, we'll have the final night of the Stoddard County Activity Association Tournament for JV and varsity. That'll be starting at 4 o'clock, late afternoon, 4 o'clock start. We'll have the JV third place game, followed by the varsity third place game at 5:30. Then at 7 o'clock, we'll have the JV championship at 7 o'clock, and then the nightcap at 8:30 is, of course, the varsity championship. All 4 games live right here on YHC for that final night of the Stoddard County Activity Association Tournament starting at 4 o'clock, and 4 games going out throughout the evening there on the 25th. All live right here on YHC and YHCTV.com. So look forward to that one in a couple weeks there on the 25th, later this month here on YHC. And after that, over the next week, the next Friday night, we'll have the Boot Hill Conference Tournament there in early January. It might be the last night of January, maybe I think it's going to be on, it's going to be on February 1st, I think. There, the next Friday night, we'll have the Boot Hill Conference Tournament, and it's going to be down in Zenith at Zenith Hornersville High School. Hopefully we can bring that one live. We haven't ever brought a live broadcast from Zenith, but we'll certainly try to bring that live to you there on the next Friday night in that Boot Hill Conference Tournament Championship. There are 2 games for the Boot Hill Conference. JV Finals, Varsity Finals, 6 and 7:30 starts. And hopefully we can bring that live to you from Zenith the following Friday night there, early February. So those are the matchups to look forward to the next 2 weeks here on YHC. And some big games there. Risco Gideon and the Tri-County. Also Dexter New Madrid next week in the SEMO Conference. So it's going to be some good games to look forward to here on YHC for the next few weeks. And let's go ahead and take a look ahead this weekend to some NFL matchups in the divisional round this week, known as the best weekend in NFL football. You get the best matchups and 2 games each day over the weekend. And today's games in the AFC Divisional, the Colts at the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, the number 1 seed, hosting the 6th-seeded Indianapolis Colts, and that'll be at 3:35 this afternoon on NBC. The top-seeded Chiefs hosting the 6th-seeded Colts, and the Colts, probably the hottest team in football. They've won the last 10 of their 11 games, got off to, I think they lost 5 of their first 6, but since then they've won 10 of 11 and have been on a great run throughout the latter half of this season. But the Chiefs, the top offense in football, see if they can sustain that. There's going to be a little weather, a little snow in the forecast for today's games in Kansas City. So we'll see if that plays a role, but could be a good matchup there between the Colts and the Chiefs this afternoon. And take a look at the spread. I think it's a 5-point favorite for the Chiefs in that one, I believe. But we'll take a look here for that AFC Divisional in Kansas City this afternoon. And the Chiefs are, 5-point favorites over the Colts here this afternoon. So look forward to that one this afternoon, the Colts at the Chiefs. Also, later on tonight in the NFC Divisional, the Cowboys at the Rams. Dallas Cowboys at the St. Louis Rams. Los Angeles Rams out in L.A. at L.A. Coliseum, and that'll be a 7:15 start tonight on Fox. Big matchup there. The Cowboys looked really good against the Seahawks last week, but much better offense out of the Rams than the Seahawks in L.A., but certainly the Cowboys fans will be filling that L.A. Coliseum, and it could be a 50-50 crowd there between Cowboys and Rams fans. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more Cowboys fans than Rams fans. That's kind of been the thing in L.A. LA fans are willing to let go of those tickets a little more and with the visiting team. So look for the Cowboys bringing a crowd and certainly making it interesting with the Rams this later on this evening. And the Rams are 7-point favorites against the Cowboys. The Cowboys just don't play as well on the road. That's the thing. They've been very good at home in Dallas, but on the road it's been a different story. Just not being able to put up as many points on the road. And the Rams, very good offensive team. So we'll see what happens there in L.A. this evening between the Cowboys and the Rams. And take a look at tomorrow's matchup, Sunday's matchups in the AFC Divisional. The other AFC Divisional, it's the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers at the New England Patriots. And that'll be a 12:05 noon start on CBS. The Patriots, the number 2 seed in the AFC, hosting the number 5 seed, the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers had a better record at 12-4 versus 11-5 Patriots, but the Chargers fell to second place in their division to the Chiefs. So the Chargers had to defeat the Ravens on the road last week. They're back on the road this weekend, taking on the Patriots, and a lot of chatter this week about the Patriots and whether this might be their last stand, perhaps towards another Super Bowl championship. Tom Brady's, not the Tom Brady that we've come to know and expect. Certainly at 41 years old, you kind of expect that into his 40s. But Rob Gronkowski, certainly not the same player, and just not the Patriots team you would expect coming into these playoffs. But they do host the Chargers. Chargers got a better offense right there. Pretty much, probably got a better roster on defense, but the Patriots defense certainly has played well the last half of the year. But weather could play a role. It's going to be around 25 degrees in New England, there in Foxborough. And the Chargers, of course, playing in L.A. It's going to be a kind of a shock to the Chargers playing in those conditions. But we'll see if that plays a role. But the Patriots are favorites in the matchup, 4-point favorites over the Chargers. And that's going to be one of the most intriguing matchups of the weekend, the Chargers and the Patriots. And the other NFC Divisional, the defending world champion, Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, the 6th seed in the NFC, take on the top-seeded New Orleans Saints in the Superdome in New Orleans. And that'll be a 3:40 start on Fox Sunday afternoon. And the Philadelphia Eagles on another magical run. We'll see if they can sustain it, duplicate it. They got a road victory over the Bears due to a missed field goal at the end by the Bears. And Nick Foles back in at quarterback this year on another little run. We'll see if they can duplicate that this year. And it'll be, I'll tell you, this week's run. Last year's a little different. Last year's run, they were the number 1 seed. They hosted throughout the NFC playoffs into the Super Bowl. This year, they're the number 6 seed. They just snuck into the playoffs late and got some help getting into the playoffs. The Vikings losing and the Eagles winning in Week 17 the last week. And the Eagles got a nice victory on the road against the Bears. Very good Bears defense. and going up against a very good Saints offense against Drew Brees. Has had a sensational year once again this year, and a better Saints defense to go along with that potent offense. And that Superdome, that's an unreal atmosphere there in the Superdome in New Orleans. And much different script this year for the Eagles. Going to be the 6th seed going on the road all the way throughout the NFC playoffs as the last seed in the NFC. But they're looking good. And Nick Foles looking good. And they got a late touchdown from Nick Foles to Golden Tate to get that lead against the Bears and on 4th down. And secured that win over the Bears, and you'll have to go on the road against the Saints. That's the thing. If they beat the Saints on the road, you got to maybe look at them as perhaps winning the whole thing once again. If they beat the Saints on the road, which will be probably the most impressive thing over the weekend if they pull it off. The Eagles over the Saints on the road, they'll have certainly the headlines from the weekend as the defending world champion making a run once again for that Super Bowl this year. So we'll see what happens, but it'll be tough for the Eagles to defeat the Saints on the road in New Orleans. And New Orleans are 8-point favorites. That's a pretty big favorite there. That's a pretty big spread there. 8-point favorite over the Eagles at home in New Orleans. So Vegas certainly going with the Saints over this one. And the 8-point spread, that's pretty big, certainly for a playoff game. So we'll see what happens. But that'll be the last game of the weekend, and it's probably fittingly, as that one's going to be the most anticipated matchup of the weekend. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be some good games, always known as the best weekend in NFL football, the divisional round. Get some great matchups, and of course the winners advancing on to the conference championships next weekend, next Sunday. So we'll see what happens. Should be some great matchups this weekend in the NFL divisional round. And that's pretty much going to do it for us today, and we appreciate you for tuning in as always. Another roundtable in the books here this weekend, and glad you joined us. And we'll be looking forward to those broadcasts we got coming up over the next few weeks. Hopefully you'll join us right here on YHC, Channel 21 on New Wave and YHCTV.com. And we'll see you next Saturday for another roundtable. And until then, have a great week. Take care, everyone.